Welcome back to another episode of Live Life by Design. Today we have another extremely special guest, Mr. Ozzie Smith. How you doing today, sir?
All right. How you doing?
Pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm excited for this one.
Legendary columnist Jim Murray once wrote that Ozzie Smith could field a ground ball while juggling 3 oranges and still get the out without dropping one. For 19 magical seasons, the Wizard dropped only jaws. Smith says what's most valuable in any endeavor is the ability to improvise.
Oh, Ozzie Smith, what a play, barehanded!
The pre-game ceremonies and festivities are over, and Ozzie Smith with a little added twist there. With his typical.
Why don't we start with early stage? Where do you come from? What was your upbringing like? And then we'll take it from there.
Well, I was born in the baseball town of Mobile, Alabama, which is the home of a lot of major leaguers. Well, it's 2% of the Hall of Fame, actually. And they just came up with a statue park in Mobile that houses Hank Aaron, Satchel Paige, Billy Williams, Elvin Bethea, and Ozzie Smith.
There you go.
So, that's a nice crowd or it's a nice thing to be able to be mentioned in the same sentence with those great ones and stuff. So that's where it all started for me as a kid. I moved to Los Angeles here when I was 6 years old, so most of my growing up was done here in
What brought
Southern
you guys to
California.
LA from
My
Alabama?
father worked for an Air Force base,
Got it.
and that brought us out here. And I ended up taking a different route to the big leagues, growing up as a kid here in L.A., a Dodger fan, of course, and used to catch the bus out to Dodger Stadium to watch the Dodgers play. And, remember, and this goes back a ways, you're probably too young to remember names like Billy Grabarkowitz and Ron Fairley and Wes Parker, Willie Davis, of course. So those were my early days and my introduction to baseball. And from there, it was just realizing that I had a skill set that allowed me to be able to at least have an opportunity to play. And I think for kids growing up here in Southern California, anywhere across the country, it's about getting that opportunity and being ready when that opportunity presented itself. And when you have guys like I had guys, as I mentioned, I played with Eddie Murray in high school, and a guy by the name of Daryl Jackson. These guys were all getting that opportunity right out of high school, which I didn't. So I explained to kids that the road to the big leagues is different for everybody. We're not all bonus babies, and my road to the big leagues was a lot different because I had to go to a small school in Central California called Cal Poly at San Luis Obispo, where I continued to hone my skills. And for the young people out there who has aspirations to be a ball player, there were times that I didn't think that I was going to get that opportunity. But one of the things that my mom always told me was that, keep yourself in a position for when that opportunity presents itself to be able to step through that window. And I can remember a time when I was getting a little discouraged because I was playing on the JV team, and I got discouraged, and I called her and I told her I was coming home, and she called my high school coach, and he called me up and said, "You're not going anywhere. You're going to stay right there, and you're going to weather the storm, and because this is the best place for you." And a couple of days later, the varsity shortstop got hurt, and there was that window of opportunity, and I stepped into that window of opportunity, and I never looked back. And then after my junior year, I was playing in a little town called Clarinda, Iowa. They send you out after your season is over to continue to play, and all of the big guys go to Alaska and Cape Cod League and stuff. I went to a little small town in Iowa where I continued to play, and in 1976 I got drafted by the Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers drafted me in the 8th round and offered me $8,500. And At the time, I promised my mom I was going to get my education. So at the time, I felt that if they didn't give me at least 10 grand, they weren't going to take a look at me. So I went back to school in hopes of getting drafted again my senior year, which I did by the San Diego Padres, and got drafted in the 4th round. And being the good businessman that I am, I signed for $5,000 and a bus ticket to Walla Walla, Washington, where I started my professional career.
Oh my goodness gracious! It's crazy to see where the state of baseball is today versus the story that you just told.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we'll unpack that here in a second, but you mentioned opportunity multiple times, and obviously we have listeners that are in all walks of life. We have entrepreneurs, we have people that are W-2 employees tuning in. We have maybe folks that are current professional athletes or former professional athletes, but all the lessons are the same. So you talked about opportunity. How do you stay ready so that when the opportunity strikes, you can take full advantage of the opportunity? I'm not just talking baseball. I'm just talking life in general.
It's keeping yourself in the right mental frame of mind. Never allowing anyone to deter you from your dream, what that dream is.
How often did people try to destroy your dreams
when
for
you're
you?
not a big guy and you don't hit home runs, it's your life. It's what you hear. You can't. And so guys like myself, it was always about proving not only to other people, but to yourself as well. So understanding that I had a skill set that I knew that if given the opportunity, I could play professionally, but it was just getting that opportunity. And so it's one of those things that you don't allow someone to steal your dream or your belief in oneself. You got to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will.
And then how do you do that? Because obviously to get to where you got and to stay where you are, because it's getting there is one thing.
That's it. I mean,
staying there is another thing.
Continuing to work hard at being the very best that you can be every day. Every day, I got a chance to play for 19 years. And
which, by the way, is a lifetime. What's the average tenure for a ball player nowadays?
Probably, they don't have to play as long anymore, So I'm going to say it's probably 7 to 8 years. Yeah. And back in at the time that I played, most of the guys, their goal was to play for at least 20 years. That was kind of the mindset.
Got it.
That you could play for 20 years and play effectively for 20 years. There's some guys that played 24, 25 years. And with that comes taking care of yourself and making sure that, you don't hurt yourself by going out and partying too much and doing all of those things, keeping yourself ready to play. And not everybody get a chance to play 24, 25 years because when you reach the age of 30, 35 in professional sports, that's how you start getting introduced. 35-year-old, 37-year-old, and so that over time, I think, kind of is kind of the way people look at you, and they say, well, 37 or 38 in baseball is old. It's not old if you keep yourself in great shape, and if your goal is to play beyond the age of 40, which a lot of the guys in my generation, the goal was to play to 40 and beyond.
Yeah. So how do you, again, best practices here, how do you say no to the things that you should say no to? And how do you perpetually say yes to the things that you should say yes to stay
I think
game ready and just ready to conquer the things that life has thrown your way?
Here again, I think that it has a lot to do with your upbringing. You're having people in your life that are all preaching the same message. And for guys that are successful, they always have somebody in their life who are preaching the positive, the belief in oneself.
Who was the main guy for you?
Thing. My mom was first, and then I was lucky enough to have my high school coach. Most of us black athletes grow up with a single parent, usually a mom, auntie, or grandmother. So they're the ones that keep us balanced and heading in the right direction. And so in many instances, it's all about making sure that we do not embarrass them, that we continue to work hard to to always give them the praise and the thanks that they are owed, because they're the ones that raise us. You know, so I wasn't any different. You know, my relationship with my dad didn't get good until after I had made it to the big leagues, you know. So we all deal with that and stuff, but it's all about preaching the same message. My mom was work hard, be the very best that you can be. My high school coach was work hard, be the very best that you can be. My college coach, same message, you know. So when you're hearing the same message all the time and working hard and believing and knowing that you're only going to get out of it what you put in, that's what I leave. The message that I leave with all young people is that in life, you only get out what you put in. If you don't put anything in, you shouldn't expect anything in return. Yeah,
life responds to effort. Did you notice a lot of people on the way that were just packed full of talent, but that work ethic wasn't there?
That's right. I mean, there's 1,000 guys like that, you know, that are very talented. But, you know, if you want to be good or great at what you do, it doesn't sleep. Greatness doesn't sleep. It's a part of you. I always heard the story that, well, you got to leave the game at the field. No, you don't leave the game. Great ones don't leave the game at the field. Just to give you an example, you know, some days after we've played it on the hot AstroTurf and we're hitting the road, and I get on the bus or on the plane, and you sit down and you doze off. The thing that wakes me up is a line drive. And so that to me says that it is a part of me. It's
in your DNA. It's in your nervous system.
It's in your system. You know, you eat it, you breathe it, you think it, you sleep it. You're always trying to find ways to be better. And I want today to be better than I was yesterday. Now, does that mean one more hit? That doesn't mean making one more saving play. It's making sure that today is better than yesterday in some way, shape, or form.
Did it ever get easy?
It's never easy. No, it's never easy. I say that all of your hard work is done away from the field, so that when you do get on the field, that's the easy part. And for me, operating in my subconscious mind is where it's hard to get in there and stay in there. So you try and stretch that out as long as you can. That is the real challenge for all of us as players.
Do you have a certain framework or certain priming that you would do systematically to get into your subconscious mind?
No, I was born with pretty good hand and eye coordination, but I continue to work on that every day. I took ground balls every day, knowing that it could be taken away at any moment, at any time. And I never wanted to leave the game saying to myself, I wish I had approached it differently. I wish I'd have given it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So when I retired in 1996, I had no regrets, you know, because I felt that I gave it everything that I had every day.
Beautiful.
For 19 years, I asked myself, did I do the very best that I could do today? And for 19 years, that answer was yes.
Amazing. That's amazing. So what do you do now? Because you're still involved with the game of baseball. So tell us what you're doing currently to keep continuously being an ambassador of the game.
Well, I'm on the board of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Believe it or not,
go ahead.
Believe it or not, the thing that really occupies my time now and takes the same type of work and preparation, most of us gravitate to golf. And we gravitate to golf because it's that thing that challenges you. First of all, you're battling yourself, you're battling the course, and you're battling the people that you're playing with. So having that competitive void in your life, golf fills that void completely. So a lot of us gravitate to that. So I am the president of the Gateway chapter of the PGA in St. Louis, which introduces kids to the game and the business of golf. One of our newest pillar over the last couple of years has been veterans. because when you get away from the game, people say, well, what do you miss the most about the game? We don't necessarily miss the game because we find that other thing to be competitive in. But you miss the camaraderie. And if you think about it, veterans, when they come back from war with PTSD and all of the different things that they have to deal with, they become shut-ins. So golf gives them a chance to do and be a part of the group again. So through golf, we're getting guys back out and
awesome.
Back into society.
That's so cool. What's the favorite course you've ever played?
I've gotten a chance to play Augusta National 3 times. I have a buddy of mine that is from Augusta. He works for Easy Go Golf, so he...
what was your first time at Augusta like when you first rolled up in there?
It's unreal because it's like carpet. I mean, it's crazy. The green complexes are really what makes it. And I don't think that people realize that it was built on the side of a hill. So it's very up and down. It's very hilly. And like I say, the green complexes are amazing. I can remember the first hole that I played, the caddy says, do not hit the ball to the left. The flag was on the right. He said, do not hit it to the left. And, of course, I hit it to the left. And so I had a 50-foot putt that I got to try and do, and I birdied it. So it was downhill from there.
I like it.
And I shot 83 that day.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats.
So that was
That's
good.
awesome.
That was good.
Maybe second favorite course. Augusta's hard to beat.
I tell you, I've through the years I've had a chance to meet some pretty nice people and do some good things with organizations. There's a company called Audia out of Pittsburgh, and it's a company that's been around it's been in their family for 75, 80 years. And we go to Scotland and Ireland every other year. And I'm lucky enough to go with them there. And one of my favorite courses in Ireland is a course called Old Head. And so if you're a golfer, you got to make that trip at least once in your life to go to Scotland and Ireland and stuff. And so that would be one of my second favorite. My third favorite would probably be Sage Valley in Augusta, which is started by a guy by the name of Weldon Wyatt, who used to build all of the Walmarts for Sam Walton, who built his own course after he couldn't become a member. So that's pretty neat,
I have a
too.
friend who's a member there.
Yeah.
So I've gotten the invite. I just haven't made it out there yet. Well, great, good deal there. So, and I was going to ask you, do a lot of ball players, do you feel like they transition pretty well from baseball into golf? Like that cut versus the...
Well, a lot of the pitchers probably played a lot when they were young, because they pitch every 5 days. When you're an everyday player.
Off, yeah.
When you're an everyday player, it's tough to get up in the morning and go and play especially if you played extra innings or whatever. And if you play every day, it's pretty tough to be able to go out and play. You have to be you really dedicate yourself to getting up early and going out there and then playing in the at night. So I think the transition for guys, because of the hand and eye coordination, bat to ball, I'm not going to say it makes it easier, because it's never easy. You still got to learn how to square it. Just like in baseball, it's all about being square more often than open or close. So that's the thing that takes time, that you have to work on, and you're constantly working on it. You will be constantly working on it if you're going to be good at the game. And golf is not a game where you just say, hey, I'm going to walk out and I'm going to play a great round of golf. It's a game you have to play. You have to play it because it's feel. And for most of us, I think, we understand feel. The lingo sometimes it may confuse guys, because if you say to a baseball player, I want you to pull this ball, he gonna pull it because he understands how to get the club head out. If I'm talking to a baseball player for the first time, playing golf for the first time, I'm going to tell him hit the ball to the second baseman. that way stays inside. You know, you just take a guy that played baseball and says, you know, I want you to pull this ball down the third base line. That ball's probably going to end up almost behind you.
Got it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
That's great.
So,
And then talk to us about the Roberto Clemente Award. Because obviously, me being from Puerto Rico, that's our national hero.
yeah, I think I received that in, I think it was 1990, I want to say 93, somewhere in there. You know, I think the transition for all of us is to be able to take your celebrity on the field and transfer
and
that
Ozzie,
into
if you don't
life.
mind, explain what that award is so that we fully understand.
The Roberto Clemente Award is an award that's given to people that for community service, work, and helping the progression of others. So to win that award, you know, it means that you're giving back. And I've always, here again, it starts with your mom and the high school coach and college coach all talked about the importance of giving back, which is probably one of the greatest assets that you can have in life. If you've been fortunate enough, as I have, to have some success in life, then that success is the real blessing. So I try to take that blessing and share it with as many people as I possibly can, while at the same time giving people hope and a belief that, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. You know, so it was a real honor. We didn't talk about this, but Roberto Clemente was one of my favorite players to watch when I used to go out to Dodger Stadium. When the Pirates came to town, I always made sure that I was there because that was a really unique skill set. You could never pattern yourself behind a Roberto Clemente, but his greatness shined like a star, you know, anytime he was on the field. And I think that, you know, he lost his life giving back. Hence, he got an award named after him. And if you can get an award named after you, it means that you had an impact on people's lives and stuff. So it's nice to be able to say that I'm one of the recipients of the Roberto Clemente Award.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. So my dad's now 88 years old, and my dad was on the phone with Roberto Clemente a day or two before that flight. You know, for the humanitarian relief effort, and getting some supplies that my dad was providing for him. So it's that whole story is really near and dear to our hearts, and you know, we have Roberto Clemente and his family in a very high regard. So obviously, being in the presence of anybody that's been given that award for that humanitarian effort. So much respect.
Well, thank you.
And thank you so much for all the contributions that you've made. And I say this all the time, happiness is the hunger to give. Unhappiness is the hunger to get. So I love the fact that you have that awareness, that fiduciary, that duty of care to know that you've been given a lot through your efforts, your hard work, your grit. And then you've taken that, and then you've given back to the community, and that's the real test of a leader. That's the real. That's the reason why we do what we do.
You know, that's really where your riches come. You know, people talk about being rich and think that's all about money, but richness is about being able to give back and make life better for your fellow man.
Yeah, it's more about contribution than it is about accumulation. So love that. So now let's pivot. So I want to talk about what is it? What do you do being a board member of the Hall of Fame? Like, how does that whole world work?
We just kind of we have a couple meetings a year where we talk about things that come up that may involve the Hall of Fame. I think people think that Major League Baseball is all wrapped up in the Hall of Fame. It's not. It's a total separate entity. You don't necessarily do the voting for the Hall of Fame. That's done by writers and sports writers and all those people. But trying to maintain the integrity of the sport. So when issues come up, whether or not, this is maintains the integrity of the thing. And that's really what it boils down to, the integrity of the institution itself.
Love it. And then, if you don't mind, talk to us about your induction of the Hall of Fame and how the feeling that you got and just that whole process, because that's just got to be something amazing.
Well, when you're an everyday player, and it was never about that. I don't think that the guys of my generation, if you said the most money that you can make is $100,000, I think we all would have been the best $100,000 players we could be. And it was about being looked upon as one of the best at what you do, which meant that you have to go out there and there has to be a degree of consistency to your work, to your craft, because if you're consistent at what you do, all of that stuff takes care of itself. And so when I was closing in on 2,000 hits, because I wasn't noted as a great offensive player, I was always defensive player, and sometimes when you get the tag of being a defensive player, it's all about all glove, no hit. Well, I took a lot of pride in making sure that I was well-rounded. Our generation of player wanted to be known on both sides of the ball. And I think that when I finished my career in 1996, having learned the art of hitting at the big league level, I had to learn it against Nolan Ryan, Fergie Jenkins, Tom Seaver, Woody Fryman, Jerry Koosman, J.R. Richard, Steve Carlton. My defensive prowess allowed me to stay at the big league level, because generally what happens if you're not a good offensive player, they send you back. But my defensive prowess allowed me to remain at the big league level to learn the art of hitting. So when I finished in 1996 with a 262 lifetime average, I was very proud of that, because nobody saw the countless hours spent. We talked about it earlier. The time and effort that is put in away from the field, the ground balls or the hitting of balls, getting to a position in my life where I could put a batting cage in my basement. We're spending 2 and 3 hours at a time till your hands are calloused, learning the art of pulling the ball or hitting the ball the other way. It's the process and loving the process. I love the process. I love the work. And so when I finished, I was very proud of what I was able to accomplish, because it wasn't easy. And here I am.
I love it.
So, talking about making the Hall of Fame, it was never really the goal. The goal was not the Hall of Fame. The goal was to be looked upon as one of the most consistent players that the game has seen, because I look at all the greats, and the thing that separates the good from the average or the good from the great is the degree of consistency with which they did what they do. And so, for 19 years and winning, 13 consecutive Gold Gloves, I think speaks for itself. It's kind of a domination of a period there, where each and every year, I was able to play at the same level. And to date, people would say, well, what is your greatest accomplishment? My greatest accomplishment to date would be from 1985 to 1996, having played with a torn rotator cuff. Wow. And so the grit, the grind, the days of knowing that you only had one long throw in you and still be able to go out and help your team win was, that was important to me, because winning, it was much more than making a great play or getting a big hit. Winning is being able to help your team psychologically. My being there at 50 to 60% may be better than somebody else at 100%, from the standpoint of the confidence that your teammates and especially a pitcher has in you.
Wow. So much to unpack right there. So many learning lessons. With the Hall of Fame, you mentioned that it was never about that. I would be willing to bet, Ozzie, that if it was about the Hall of Fame for you, you would not be a member of the Hall of Fame.
Probably right for a lot of guys. But some guys would probably say, "Yeah, I knew I was going to the Hall of Fame." You don't know that, because there are so many variables along the way. The goal was to be the very best baseball player that I could be.
And you were infatuated with the process. You were infatuated with Kaizen,
because I had
continuous
to.
improvement.
I had to because I didn't have size. You didn't hit the ball out of the ballpark. So the little things that aren't necessarily looked upon as the great things are things that I had to excel at. I had to be able to bunt. I had to be able to drive that runner in from third base with less than 2 down. I had to be able to do all of the little things. And I always tell people that if you have good sound fundamentals, you always have a reference point. But if you're not fundamentally sound, you're always in search of. The great ones were able to get back on track because they had good sound fundamentals. They understood the fundamentals of what they were trying to do. So therefore, it didn't take a Stan Musial long to get back on.
So a big parallel here with business is systems, structure, fundamentals. You can go explore other verticals within your business, but as long as your fundamentals are taken care of, then you're going to be fine. But quite often, we try going after that shiny object, or we change the strategy fully without having the base taken care of, and that's where we struggle as entrepreneurs and business owners. So make sure that your foundation is there. You know what the foundation looks like. You have the fundamentals locked in. That way you can continuously search out other verticals within your business. You mentioned your rotator cuff, and did you tell anybody about it?
Well, I mean, the team, of course, knew it. It started as impingement. I dove back into first base and just before the All-Star break in '85, and I ended up tearing the rotator cuff. But here again, it's still finding a way to do it. The body is an amazing thing. First of all, it wasn't made to throw from up here. It's made to throw from down here. So what happens is the body adapts. So everything was done now below my shoulder. Learning around the ball, getting momentum to get your throw to first base. Played on AstroTurf. Stole this from David Concepcion, learning to bounce the ball at first base. All of those things kind of came into play. They came into play more once I tore my rotator cuff. Because if you've ever had a torn rotator cuff, it hurts to turn the radio dial. It hurts to open a door.
Everything.
I mean, that little muscle in the back does so much. I mean, people have no idea. And so it wasn't until I retired that I finally got it done, because it was starting to affect my golf game. Talk about priorities. But
did your opponents know that you had this injury?
You know what? It really didn't matter, because I still had a job to do. I still had to help my team win. So whether they knew or not, it really didn't matter. I had to find a way to make it work.
No excuses type mentality. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about how many things hit us on a daily that we just allow to take us out of, the trajectory that we're on. Sometimes we allow things in our life to be the reason why we're willing to become a victim. We're almost like searching for it at times.
Yeah, here again, I think one of the most important things in life is the ability to improvise. That's why I love the double play, because it was improvisation. I never knew exactly how I was going to turn it, because a lot of that depended on where the runner was.
But again, the more sound you are with your fundamentals, then the more you can improvise in life.
You can improvise.
And I say this all the time, like, if your systems are dialed in and you're a stoic with those systems and with those fundamentals, you can be the artist that you want to be. You can be extremely creative. Mm-hmm. But you got to make the main things the main thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now let's just go with maybe one final question here. Talk to us about leadership in general, just the key role that leadership plays in, sports, business, life, being a dad, etc. And then I have one follow-up question right after that.
Well, leadership, I think your best leaders lead by example. For instance, if you're on a ball club and your best player is your hardest worker, life's going to be easier for you. Because if your goal is to win, then or to be the best you can be, then you work hard at following the lead of the person that everybody looks up to. So it would be nice to have that leader also be vocal. That doesn't always work out. They don't always. Being a leader is not necessarily about voicing it. I think that's part of what some ball clubs are dealing with now. They have good players, but they're not boisterous. They're not in the clubhouse. And you try and find that person that is the most talented, while at the same time possess that ability to be able to speak to teammates.
Yeah, of course. Leadership is influence, nothing
Yes.
less, nothing more. And obviously, a lot of what is being said isn't being said by their grit, their hard work, determination, etc. But in the clubhouse, when you're in the locker room, you need that voice. You need that person that can capture the hearts and minds of their teammates.
And sometimes, even as a manager or as a coach, as an example, I can tell my kid, hey, you know what, this is what you need to do with your hands, and this is where, your hands need to be. And he goes, yeah, Dad, okay. One of my teammates can say the same thing. He goes, well, so-and-so told me that this is where my hand should be. I said, well, it's the same thing. So you got to have the right person delivering the message.
Love it.
You got to have the right person delivering the message.
Love that. Okay, final question for you, and you've been more than gracious with your time, so really do appreciate it. Live life by design instead of by default. So the premise is this: it's quite a few people, they haven't really woken up. They're kind of that rat in the rat race, at least in one regard, making up the whole person paradigm. So how do you make sure that you're always living your life by design instead of just by mere default or happenstance?
Well, I think that sometimes, you can design it a certain way, but here improvisation comes in again. You got to be able to adapt to situations. One of the best things that's happened to me in my life, I got 3 grandkids.
Congrats.
Yeah, so 9, 2, and 1. And so getting to be able to spend time with them, because the one thing that we as players, we miss out on the growing up of our kids sometimes because of our schedules. Our schedules keep us told. That's why your mate becomes so important to the family life. And so having the opportunity now to be able to share the things with my grandkids that I weren't necessarily able to share with my kids, it's very, very important.
That's cool.
And so making that adaptation, I think one of the things that having kids and grandkids, it teaches you patience.
A lot of patience. I've got 5 kids.
Yeah,
so
it teaches you patience, and I
talk,
was never really the most
you talk
patient.
about improvising.
Yeah, so I was never the most patient person. So I find myself learning to be more patient. And I think that's probably one of the most important lessons that I've learned in my life.
God has that perfect plan,
Yeah,
it's
you
like,
have that plan.
here's some kids. Don't worry. Now here are the grandkids. I got you.
So, you can design it, but you've got to be able to go with the flow.
But again, the better you design it, the more you can go with the flow, because then the flow works. Instead of just being all over the place.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Listen, tons of gems. It's been an honor today.
Thank you.
Congratulations for everything that you've done, and congratulations to everything that you're doing. You're definitely an inspiration to many, and it's been an absolute privilege. Thank you so much. This is Live Life by Design. Thank you.